Man, it has been a long time, guys. Very long. Sorry for the delay. I'm actually up to 2 kids now. That's how long it's been. Give you some perspective. Did a big block swap in the car, guys. You know, big change, big block swap. And this guy right here, big block, nitro, methane. Not been serious. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at what's happened over this time. I'd like to say that it's not my fault that it took so long, but it mostly is. I did have to wait, you know, to have some people do some custom fabrication on some things for the turbo. But now, everything's wrapped up and we can take a look here. Look. There it is, 7875. Who'd have thought? So, overview. Since last time, I believe I was showing you, I got this Hooker LS turbo manifold that has the, down there, that little 2-in-1 deal. That's pretty much all I had figured out at the time. So what I ended up doing is I could squeeze the turbo just barely in here. It just barely fits. Here's the joint I made off the turbo manifold to the turbo. It's, you know, yay long. I don't know, what is that, 4 inches? It's got an O2 sensor right up in there underneath the water hose. Right up here where my finger is. So I got an O2 there, controlling, you know, the passenger side. And then on the crossover pipe from the driver's side, I put another O2 so I can, you know, run closed loop or open loop. Other side, driver's side, let's take a look. What I did end up doing, which was, at first, you know, I was trying to do what everybody did and use the truck manifolds, but it wouldn't squeeze in there. So I ended up getting some block hugger stainless steels, like Chinesium ones, you know, 80 bucks a pair or something. Actually very good quality. And it turned out to be really lucky it happened, because with them being a block hugger and coming out in the middle, gave me an idea. Oh, sorry. Basically how I can redo my crossover to be super clean. Because yeah, take note, there's no crossover pipe visible. And like that was what I was complaining about before, is with the low ground clearance you can't run it underneath anything, otherwise you hit the ground. So what I managed to do was squeeze it, running it around in front of the engine. Let's take a look. So hopefully the lighting's good. You see right there? So this is the F-body Camaro Fuel Pan, popular choice because, you know, it's pretty low profile. And it's got, you know, whatever you call it, a cutout in the front of the pan, which, you know, was perfect enough space to tuck this crossover pipe under. And so it's very simple. I go in here off the block hugger. I have just, you know, a little bend down, some more bends, run it tucked up there near the oil pan, and around the other side, and it bends back up into that collector for the hooker one. Here's an underview shot of the turbo. I can't really zoom out anymore, but see, that's all it is right there. Is that little stainless steel piece, which a buddy of mine welded up. And then I got the wastegate welded underneath the turbo there. Barely clears. Might actually need to clearance that, this would focus. Might need to clearance that little ring a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. Shit. But that's pretty much, turn off my flashlights. Actually, I might as well sleep it on. Fuck it. That's pretty much the hot side. The downpipe is another story. Because, as you can see, I initially wanted to put it out the back there, but there's not really enough space to run it out there, especially with the 3-inch pipe. I could step it down to 2-inch, but you know, there's a lot of cables back there and spark plug wires, hoses that need to be moved around, and kind of be a pain. So I can ghetto old school out the hood or out the fender, which I've seen a lot of people actually doing with these cars, is they run it, put my phone down, they take this guy and they bend it up here, relocate the battery, and run it out the fender well, because as you see, there is a lot of room in there. Like, you can fit a muffler in here, enough room. So that's what I'm leaning towards, although this is like the only 240Z I've seen with such like a pristine battery trace, so it would be kind of a shame to hack that up. To do that, onto the cold side of things, I was flip-flopping around with a radiator for a long time. I got a cross-flow one, which is in my trash can right now because the thing cost me a lot of grief, waste of time, waste of cash. I went up with just a Champion. This is their, 240Z specific radiator, I don't know, 3-row, something like that. And it's got V8 conversion outlets on it, which basically means it has small block Chevy outlets. So I had to have this outlet down here modified because it wasn't the right size. So I had a dude weld that on and came out at a little angle so this hose could finagle around in the pipes and fit in there. Because if it went straight, you see how much clearance issue there's. Like, there's the wastegate right there. Like, it is tight. It is tight in here. And I was able to squeeze. I looked for the lowest profile electric fan I could get. It's a Spall fan. It's covering a little more than half the radiator, I would say. I put a little shroud on there to shroud it, and as you can see, very tight, very tight. I had to just kind of like shave the corner a little so that it barely gets around the cold side. That'd be the output, and then this air filter is, it's kind of touching against the back of the motor, but it's squeezed in there. As far as the turbo goes, like I said, probably a number of times, VS Racing 7875. I got the oil feed goes into the side of the block. Let's see, I could probably squeeze the camera to get an angle through something. Yeah, right in here, maybe. Right above the oil filter, there is a little fitting, which comes, I believe, on all the trucks, which has like a little leg that pokes up, and it's not tapped from the factory. So if you tap it, you can screw one of these dealios right in there. And as for the return line, you can see that shiny braided line up in here, and that goes into the side of the oil pan. Does the trick. One thing to note, when I was getting this wrapped up, this Hooker turbo manifold, whatever, I'll just call it that, I had to do about like 5 or 6 passes on torquing down the bolts, because I don't know, maybe that's just how it was. But I had to tighten them, go back again, tighten them, tighten them, tighten them, tighten them, tighten them, tighten them, to get it to actually like sit in there flat and compress the gasket well. So if you have one of these, be sure you take a couple more passes when you tighten it the first time, because you might not get full seating, and then you'll have leaks. But yes, that is basically what I've done to get this turbo in there. And this right here, let me go over back to the cold side. So EM USA eBay, intercooler, basic thing. It's I can't really tell you the dimensions off the top of my head, but it's the biggest I could fit in there. As you can see, fits very well. There's 2.75 inch outlets on it, and so this one goes 2.75 down to 2.5, which is what the turbo cold air outlet size is. And then this one goes 2.75 up to 3 inch, because this, I believe, is 4 inch. So this right here steps it up again, and there's no clamps, yes. So you'll note later on when I show this running, the boost will kind of be dropping and stuff. Then keep that in mind, because you know this is not sealed on this pipe, because I'm waiting for the clamps still. These are the clamps I got. You know, I got some good T clamps, I think they're called, but I ordered 3-inch, and if you have to do the same, keep in mind the description, because they say 3-inch, yet if you tighten it maximum, it's 3.25 inches. How's that a 3-inch clamp? Riddle me that. But yeah, couldn't get it tight enough. It was leaking. Got new ones on order. Things left to do is I want to do some sort of heat protection for the exhaust. So, you know, these guys are touching the spark plugs on the number, what is that, 3 and 5 cylinders. So I'm a little concerned with time. That can melt them a little bit, maybe cause it to short to the header. So I want to get these ceramic coated, the whole hot side. And then I need to still run the pipe to the wastegate for the little boost reference line. So I'm guessing I'll use this port, run it into the wastegate under there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This new radiator has a built-in oil cooler, so I was able to run my tranny cooler lines. The TR6060 has a tranny cooler, or uses a tranny cooler. T56 does not. I don't know if the Magnum does or not, so this allowed me to get rid of a oil cooler, which is good because I wasn't really kind of running out of room up here with this intercooler to mount another cooler, so that was nice. But yeah, let me show you guys it running here, and yeah. Okay, one more thing I forgot to mention about this. I'm running decapped injectors. They were LS3s to begin with, which I believe off the top of my head flow around 40 pounds. And decapped estimates I see is 80 pounds. So I decapped them to get the extra flow I needed. I added a ZR1. If you want the part number, you can try to read that. Map sensor. And so in order to compensate that for my tune, for the map sensor, what you need to do is basically there's two fields, like offset and something else. But look it up, map sensor offset, if you need to do that. So change those values to get that map sensor to read right. The injectors, I was unlucky. I've been having issues. This E38, since it came off of it was an 07 Silverado with a 6L80E. It's very unique. At first I couldn't get the speedometer PIDs to work for that, so it always reads the wrong speed when I try to use the ones from manual transmission. And second thing I noticed is with the injectors, it has a max flow rate that I can key in of like 65 pounds. And so that 65 pounds, obviously is less than these flow, which is gonna make it, underestimate the fuel it's getting. So what I did for that is I basically changed my scaling, because I'm running a deadhead system. There's no return, there's no fuel pressure regulated. As the vacuum in the intake changes, it affects the flow rate of the pressure, or the flow rate of the injectors. Makes sense. You have 10 psi of fuel going in, 1 psi in the manifold pushing back equals 9 psi, less flow. So basically what I had to do was I took my injectors, which in the tune they're scaled to have a slope to the value of flow versus pressure, and I took that and I made it so that the maximum cell, like as far as flow goes in that table, is equal to the maximum value I could enter, which was like 65. So it's not 80, but it's it's as high as I could get it. Eventually, when I get this running, I can tune around that by modifying the VE tables and stuff. But for now, you can see I already ran. It's sooty. I think I actually saw like a drop of fuel drip out of there at one point. But yes, it's running very rich. And even like if I wasn't to do much, over time the long-term fuel trims would kind of fix that themselves a little bit. But me unhooking the battery all the time, because not driving it that much, kind of resets the long-term fuel trims. It doesn't matter. That's it. I did run into, there was one issue I ran into, which I don't know if any of you guys would run into the same. When I was going to flash the tune, basically what happened was the HP tuners was saying no protocol discovered, and it wouldn't write my tune. It would just immediately crash and fail. And it turned out it was because my relay was going bad for my key, so I wasn't actually getting power in the on position to the ECU, and so that's why I couldn't read it. Makes sense. So if you guys have a similar issue where you see like protocol not found or some sort of issue like that with your flashing, you know, make sure your computer's getting power and your OBD2 port is getting power. I only realized it because normally, you know, you press the gas and you can hear the throttle blades moving and stuff, and I was like, wait a second, I don't hear that. Engine must not be getting power, and that's how I kind of begin to debug it. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. All right, sun is out. As promised, let's see how it sounds. First things first, let me put a muffler on this guy. Yeah, that'll do. Alright. Let's take a look at the logs while we run. Let me secure that drive shaft. In case you guys didn't know, even in neutral, the drive shaft will spin if it's got no load. Let's just try that again. Let's try to connect. Alright, let's see what we got here. Everything looks like it's in the green. I think we're good. I do see barometric pressure is atmosphere. Oh, there we go, intake pressure. 8 psi. Uh, 11 psi, something like that. Looks good. She's good. So good.